For the first time in 38 years of hitherto fractious opposition to the Islamic Republic, we've come together to form a united front that transcends the division between monarchists and republicans. We're a coalition of patriotic Iranian political and cultural organizations. Included in this coalition are the Iranian Renaissance Movement, the Pan-Iranist Party, the National Front, and the Constitutionalist Party of Iran. Anyone with even a modicum of understanding of modern Iranian political history will grasp what we've accomplished by bringing constitutional monarchists together with the party of Mohammad Mossadegh. Let me say a few words about each of the groups involved in this coalition. I'll begin with the Constitutionalist Party, since our coalition is being formed on the occasion of a celebration of the establishment of Iran's first constitution during the Persian Constitutional Revolution of 1906 to 1911. Rooted in the modernizing reforms of the late Qajar period, the party stands for a monarchy with the powers of the monarch, limited by a written constitution in the context of a parliamentary system with a division between legislative, judiciary, and executive powers. Certain of the party's members have been critical of the slide into royal absolutism during the Pahlavi dynasty. They've also resisted the idea that a post-Islamic constitutional order in Iran should begin with a blank slate and emulate contemporary Western models. Instead, they favor an evolution based on Iran's own century-old constitutionalist movement. Representing this political party is Khosrow Beytullahi. The second oldest political party represented here today by Nasser Pol is the Pan-Iranist Party, with its origins in the Sumka of the early 1940s. This was the main political and paramilitary organization of that era attempting to defend Iran against a foreign military occupation, one which unfortunately eventually did take place between 1943 and 1946, epitomized by the Tehran Conference and the Soviet occupation of Azerbaijan. The Pan-Iranist Party advocates the political reunification of all territories that are ethnically or linguistically Iranian, or have historically been an integral part of the Persianate world. In line with the Persian concept of millat, its conception of the Iranian nation is comparable to the German idea of a folk, rather than the modern concept of the nation-state with arbitrarily contrived borders. On this definition, all people who speak an Iranian language are part of the Iranian nation. This includes not just the Persian or Dari speakers of central Iran, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan, but also the Kurds, Ossetians, Baluchis, and Pashtuns. People of Iranian ethnicity and whose language and whose cultural identity has been formed by the Persianate world, but whose language has been altered by foreign occupation are also included. For example, the Azeris and other Caucasians, as well as those in Pakistan and northern India who claim the heritage of the Persianate Mughal dynasty as their own. Even the Western Ukrainians, the Croats and Bulgarians in Europe, who are of Scythian and Sarmatian descent, can be considered a part of the Iranian nation in this sense. The Pan-Iranist Party, led by Mohsen Pezeshkpur, played the role of the ultra-nationalist loyal opposition within the Pahlavi regime, and became famous for its very vocal resistance to Mohammad Reza Shah's relinquishing of Iran's claim to Bahrain in 1971. Another member of our coalition that is renowned for its ferocious defense of Iran's national interest is the National Front, or Jebhe Milli. As the leader of this party, and as Prime Minister of Iran in the early 1950s, Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized Iran's oil resources and was recognized across the entire globe as a champion of national self-determination in the face of British colonial machinations. Mossadegh's party, represented here today by Bijan Mehr, is the most substantial and well-established opposition party in favor of a secular republic. So we see it as particularly promising that the National Front has chosen to align itself with the several monarchist groups in our coalition. on the basis of a shared commitment to the protection of the cultural identity, heritage, and territorial integrity of Iran. Last, but most certainly not least, the Iranian Renaissance is the youngest of the groups that constitutes our coalition, but also the one that reaches deepest into the ancient heritage of Iran. Consequently, this cultural organization has been able to act as an umbrella for the various political groups that constitute our coalition. And the spokesman of the Iranian Renaissance, Shahin Nejad, is also the spokesman of the coalition. The Iranian Renaissance is based on the revival of ancient principles and ideals enshrined in the Gathas of Zarathustra and the Shahnameh of Ferdowsi. These include the reverence for wisdom and the pursuit of knowledge above all else. Consequently, also an emphasis on industrious innovation, leading to a utopian beautification and perfection of this world. A cultivation of chivalrous free-spiritedness, charitable humanitarianism, and broad-minded tolerance. A political order based on natural right, wherein slavery is considered unjust and strong women are greatly respected. The Iranian Renaissance movement strives for a rebirth of the pre-Islamic worldview of Iranian civilization, seeing the so-called Golden Age of Islam as an afterglow or abortion of what might have been had Iran continued its developmental trajectory as an Aryan nation. While we want to make Iran great again by revitalizing this Indo-European legacy, rootless globalists, Arab oil sheikhs, and their Islamist collaborators in Turkey and Pakistan want to erase Iran from the map. Evidently, this is not lost on the hundreds of thousands of Iranian nationalists who gathered at the tomb of Cyrus the Great on October 29, 2016, to chant the slogan, "We are Aryans, we don't worship Arabs. Ma Aryai hastim, Arab ra nemi parastim." The slogan is as blatantly anti-Islamic as possible within the limits of the law in the Islamic Republic. The Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali were, of course, Arabs, so the point is quite clear. It's also clear who these young people consider their true messenger, since the other most widely chanted slogan was, "Our Aryan Cyrus, you are our honor." Kurosh Aryai, to iftikhar mai. Since the brutally crushed uprising of 2009, almost all Iranians have rejected the Islamic Republic. Many of them, especially the youth, are convinced that Islam itself is the problem. They have clandestinely converted to a neo-Zoroastrianism that is indistinguishable from Iranian ultranationalism. Zarathustra in a winged disc, symbolizing the evolutionary perfection of the soul, known as the Farvahad, is everywhere, on pendants, rings, and tattoos. Meanwhile, leftists in the Marxist and Maoist opposition to the Islamic Republic are becoming the useful idiots of globalists who want to carve up what little is left of Iran. It should never be forgotten that these radical leftists and their armed guerrillas are the ones who actually handed Iran over to the Ayatollahs in 1979, before Khomeini turned on them, forcing those who escaped execution to go into exile. Those in the Marxist and Maoist opposition to the Islamic Republic promote federalism, regional autonomy, and so-called education in the mother tongue, but their ultimate aim is ethnic separatism. They are transplanting an anti-colonialist discourse of people's liberation struggles into an Iranian context where it does not belong. The Persians never lorded over anyone. We are humanitarian liberators. If anything, we were too humanitarian and too liberal. Leftists speak of the peoples of Iran as if the Kurds and Baluch are not ethnically Iranian, and as if a Turkic dialect were not imposed on the province of Azerbaijan, a Caucasian wellspring of Iran, by means of genocidal, half-savage Asiatic conquerors. While claiming to be feminists and partisans of the proletarian revolution, these leftists accept funding from Saudi Arabia, who wants to help them separate the oil-rich region of Khuzestan from Iran and turn it into the Arab Republic of Al-Ahvaz, with a considerable coastline, along what they already refer to as the Arabian Gulf. Kurdistan, Azerbaijan, Al-Ahwaz, Baluchistan, these microstates, ostensibly born of leftist liberation movements, would be easy for rootless global capitalists to control. In at least two cases, Al-Ahwaz and Free Baluchistan, they would also be breeding grounds for the further spread of Islamic terrorism. Finally, these manufactured separatist revolts would leave the Persians divested of almost all of Iran's oil and natural gas resources and contain the rising tide of the Iranian Renaissance within a rump state of Persia. The conflation of Iran and Persia has for a number of years now been enlisted as part of a plot to further erode the territorial integrity of Iran. Surrounded by a dozen artificial states that do not predate the European colonial machinations of the 18th and 19th centuries, Iran is the only real nation between China and India in the east and Russia and the European nations to the north and west. Shorthand for Iran Shahr, a contraction of the ancient Persian Aryana Khashatra, or Aryan Imperium. The country's 55% Persian majority never referred to Iran as Persia or the Persian Empire. The classical Greeks coined that term and it stuck in the West. It's dangerously misleading because while the Persians have been the most culturally dominant ethno-linguistic group within Iranian civilization, comparable to the Han within Chinese civilization, the Kurds, Ossetians, Baluch, and others are both ethnically and linguistically Iranian, even if they do not speak the Persian language. While the rootless globalist conspirators plotting to frame Iran as a conceptual construct of Persian imperialism are certainly driven by economic and strategic considerations, their ultimate goal is the erasure of the very idea of Iran or Iran Shah. They see the revival of this idea as perhaps the single greatest threat to their broader agenda. Since the total failure of the Islamic reform movement of 1997 to 2009, just such a revival has been at the heart of an ultra-nationalist cultural revolution in Iran. This cultural revolution has the force of a firestorm, and it will most definitely yield the country's next form of government. Foreign intervention and manipulation may delay this by 5 to 10 years at most, but I'm 120% certain that it cannot alter the essential trajectory of Iranian society after the imminent overthrow of the Islamic Republic. Tomorrow's Iran will be a greater Iran, an Iran based on pre-Islamic Persian ideals, a cultural powerhouse, an economic giant, and a military superpower whose force is felt from the forever Persian Gulf to the Caucasus and Central Asia. The only question facing America and the West at large is whether to benefit from our eventual victory. The formation of our coalition of patriots is a historic moment in the millennial history of Iranian civilization. It is also a moral crossroads for those in the West who truly stand for human freedom and self-determination. Please join us in working to make Iran great again. Thank you.